So with that being said, do you feel like this would be if we started over from scratch, that this would mean no labels at all? Because
I think we're moving
the
towards
overhead.
Salute. This is Eshawn Burgundy. Right now, you in the field with the Trackstarz. Yeah.
Yeah, back in the field with the Trackstarz, Ryan Righteous, SEANTANA, DJ Jeremiah. All right, this is sponsored by True Strength Apparel. Make sure you go get your latest True Strength gear.
Yeah,
man. So, also, this is brought to you by Audible.com, audibletrial.com/Trackstarz. Yeah. So, Jason Bordeaux's been telling us about this app called Anchor. So I started my Anchor station, and I got a call in from one of our listeners, and she was saying, "How come you guys don't recommend books anymore? I missed that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe we should." So let's do that. I'm gonna pull up my list of books that I have been checking out, and it was Gospel Lift. Gospel Lift is the station that told me to do this, but. All right, so go to audibletrial.com/Trackstarz, and the books that I have been checking out recently, I never quite finished the Nike one, Phil Knight. It's almost done. I'm listening to The Artist's Guide to Success in the music industry, Lauren Wiseman. Okay. I'm also listening to How to Make It in the New Music Business by Ari Herstand. Do you know who Ari Herstand is?
His name sounds familiar.
He has a blog and he gives a lot of really good tips.
Okay.
A lot of what I'm doing right now are from little hints I found on his his blog. So yeah, those are the ones I'm checking out now, and I'll tell you about the other ones as we go. But yeah, audibletrial.com/Trackstarz. All right, so we're back. DJ Jeremiah is back.
Yeah, man.
We've been missing at least one Trackstar for the last month or so. So Ryan is out today, but we're here. Miracle is here. So first thing we're going to talk about is this. All right. So there's been a lot of news recently about Spotify, SoundCloud, Tidal, these streaming services having some issues recently. Not necessarily like I'm worried about them, maybe SoundCloud, but I'm not really worried about them because I'm sure they'll keep getting investment because the idea is so good, and they'll figure out the business model eventually. But they are all in debt, right? They're all underwater. They're losing money constantly, right? So even though streaming is kind of taking over the world, nobody really seems to be actually making money off of it. The artists are complaining about how little they get. The streaming services are losing money. The record labels are losing money because nobody's buying albums anymore. What is going to come of all this? Like, is streaming going to die at some point? Is there going to be something after streaming? We going back to bootlegging? Like, what's happening next? What's the next? Because streaming just destroyed the typical music business model. People used to be making if you only went platinum, you may lose your deal.
Yeah.
If you went gold, like if you went 500,000, I remember Joe Budden talking about this on his show. He sold 500,000 units and it was a dud. If you sell 500,000 units now, that's like crazy. People can't even crack 50,000 now.
Yeah.
Like big name artists.
Yeah, that's true.
So like the music industry has totally changed, and streaming has helped the independent artists. Streaming is great for us. You know, like the artists that we distribute on Nectar, like the streaming money continues to come because, you know, but especially because you're getting most of it. But with these people with deals, the streaming money is not helpful at all. So what's coming next? If the streaming services can't sustain the business model, record labels can't sustain theirs, artists can't sustain theirs, like how are we going to do this music thing in the future?
I would like ladies go first.
I'm still sitting up here pondering. I don't know.
Now,
I'm going to have to think about it.
I think one is because a lot of people out there like me, whereas I'm on Spotify, but at the same time, I am free. I've been free on Spotify for like 4 to 5 years. So I'm not paying for anything. So
but it's still advertisers.
Yeah, you still get advertisers. But I think another thing too is, I just think that I think it can if streaming did go away, I think we would go back to kind of, I think you said it, like somebody would try to come back up with like a new version of like a Napster maybe, do your Googles, people, on Napster. Napster was like...
Napster is why this is happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Napster allows you to get music for free.
Yeah.
So streaming is like an answer to, hey, instead of stealing it, we'll give it to you for free, but do it this way, because that way they can still get paid.
Yeah, and you get some money for it. So I'm thinking if streaming did go away, I don't think it will. I honestly don't think it will. I think more buyouts will probably happen to it. I think more people would, like other companies, will buy out a SoundCloud or buy out Spotify or buy out those other brands of streaming services. That's what I think. I don't think it's going anywhere because it's a moneymaker. I mean, now people are doing straight to streaming services versus record stores or versus iTunes. You know what I mean? So I don't see it going nowhere. I don't see it. But if it was to fail, I think we would have to go back to buying albums and buying or stealing albums. That's what I think.
Yeah. What do you think, Miracle?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it will evolve more. And maybe in the future it'll just look different than what we are like experiencing right now. I don't know. And then maybe there may be like some new morphing of like businesses kind of working. I mean, obviously you have like artists that are already endorsed by like companies, but maybe there'll be something where there's just a different fusion of that. And so then like that's how money is like circulated through. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea, but we'll see what happens.
Do you think that this will, if they did die, this will benefit the death of the independent artist will be next again? Like, you know, at one time, everything was on a, right now I feel like everything's on a even playing field. Like the way you release music, like you, just as much you have to find a Jay-Z record, Kendrick record, you can go find a Sean record, you can go find or Ernest drop his. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the playing field is leveled, but if streaming service was to die, does that bring back the independent artists?
Well, I don't think that's what leveled the playing field. What leveled the playing field was Fruity Loops and Logic and Pro Tools. That levels the playing field. Yeah. Because I can get my music on iTunes. Even if streaming went away, I could still get my music on iTunes just like all of them. So it wouldn't kill the independent artists. But if they're, I don't know how they would handle this. They have to figure the model. The only way they can fix it is if they raise the price of your subscription fee from $9.99 to more like $39.99.
Oh, and then I'd be out.
Right. That would
I would dip.
That would help everybody out. But then they would lose you, and you would go back to stealing it. So
well,
they have to find.
I would go back to just.
They would have to find a
I would
model.
just go to YouTube and listen on YouTube.
There you go. Boom.
I mean,
well, YouTube has the same problem. The only reason YouTube gets away with it is Google owns them, and Google could absorb any losses in music
that they have,
with all the other stuff they do. So that's eventually I think these companies are gonna be bought by like the
record labels,
the networks. No, they're gonna get bought by the networks. Eventually, the Googles, the Facebooks, the AT&Ts, they're gonna own everybody.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time because I don't think these smaller companies can sustain what they're doing without big dollars, and so they can absorb losses.
But it would make sense if like Comcast is Universal, right?
Comcast is they bought Universal.
Okay, so that would make sense if Comcast said, "Hey, SoundCloud, I hear y'all struggling. Let us be a part of that situation."
Yeah, somebody's gonna buy them. Somebody's gonna buy them.
Our resident tech.
What you got?
Okay, so I feel like in order for us to properly, I guess, find out what's going to happen next is to find the cause of the problem. And basically, I think the reason that we got here was Napster. And the reason Napster was so popular is because free music became cheaper, more available to the users. And as far as streaming services, like the prices going up and so forth, it's because of the way the economy works now. Because we like the things that we buy aren't like solid. Yeah. This is something that I'm paying for that I have to keep paying for. Like this is a bill. And so when you're introducing someone to a bill, they're more resistant to the prices going up. versus purchasing the album, so on and so forth. But I do think that side streaming companies would fall off eventually, like the SoundClouds, not Spotify. I think Spotify eventually will just start hosting albums, because the key that iTunes and Google Play have that Spotify and SoundCloud don't have is that they stream the album, but they also have the album available for purchase. So those people who don't want to take the time, who don't want to have them constantly in their pocket, can still get the music they want. And then also those people who would prefer to just have a subscription to get everything can do that.
Yeah. Here's the thought I have. It feels like what may need to happen is that these sites may have to turn into YouTubes, where they allow anyone to upload content and then allow those people to use real artists' content in their stuff. That's how YouTube is working, because if I make a video and I put somebody's music in it, that artist will get money from it whether they upload it or not. So there's more money flowing around because the users incur more spending
unless they
on,
stop it, because we've had somebody.
But it's better that
stop.
It's better that they don't, because these artists, like I'm looking at a one of my sheet from the Wonder Years album, right? So for instance, I just want to make sure people understand like how much money we're talking about, what the artists get, right? So Spotify, let me see what I got here. So for the song Glorious, right? Subscription audio stream, meaning somebody has the real Spotify, they pay for it. One stream was about half a cent, 0.005, half a cent. Every time somebody streams it, I get half a cent. If somebody does not pay for Spotify, the ad-supported stream is more like 0.001 or even less than that.
So you
right?
Dang.
You just get the hat from Lincoln.
So that's the numbers we're talking about. So there's it's not a lot of money going around. But again, if you stack that up and you're a popular artist, then it could pay out. Artists like Surf Gang, they're doing better. They're doing better, right? I'll just say that. So
You Can't Stop Me by Andy has like almost near 1 billion hits on Spotify.
yeah, so
Stuff like that probably would.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when it matters. That's when you start feeling it, when you become popular. So that's what kind of evens the playing field. Because if you could figure out how to get popular even without a label, you could do okay.
Yeah.
Especially because you're keeping most of your money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how this all works. I'm still learning the old business model so I could catch up to them and figure out what the new thing is doing. But it seems like the old business model is dead. Like you have to have a new, fresh mind on what's happening here and try. It's almost like we got to think about it from the beginning. Like if we just started over music distribution and music business from scratch, what would we do now? I feel like that's what we would have to approach it as. What do y'all think?
Starting from right now versus starting back from when you say going in the back, what are you looking at from the back?
I mean, you're looking at how did they do it in the past when there were like physical things that they still do it, but when there's physical CDs, right? There's other costs that they're absorbing, right? Like if some of the CDs are damaged, if some of the CDs get returned, if some of the CDs are used for promo, like all of it was built around the physical disc.
Yeah.
Now that there's no physical disc, some of those charges in your record deal don't make any sense anymore. But they still do it because that's what they've been doing.
Well, I mean, they still probably send those promos to radio, to
They still do,
to,
yeah.
like, advertisers.
But they don't have to
and
do it
stuff.
that way. They could send a Dropbox link
Yeah,
if they
true.
want to, right?
true.
But we still do a lot of stuff just because that's how it's always been, not
Yeah.
because it's the best way to do it right now.
Yeah.
So it may take a group of people with just fresh eyes saying from scratch, how do we redesign this whole industry to make everybody make the right amount of money and no one thing, some archaic thing, make all the money.
I think Lupe Fiasco, I remember him on an interview saying that he's like, the business has never been fair for the artist. It has never been fair. He's like, he tried to beat the system and just failed at it. He said, because you're never going to beat the monster machine, because the way they have it set up contractually, the way they have it set up based off your needs, is like you will always owe the label. Even when you recoup, it's like, I still owe you some money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, even if streaming did go away, the artists on those labels would still have to pay some type of amount. I mean, if they went back to CDs or another format or whatever, you know what I mean? Even before streaming kicked off, you got to think about iTunes. Like, you either was getting your stuff off of those LimeWires, off of Napster, or you was on iTunes. And if you were on iTunes, like, did they take percentages of like breaking up your album? Because remember, we grew up on if I had to buy a Mace album, turning my age, his first album, you know what I mean? Like, I bought his whole album. I couldn't buy just that song, just that song, just that song, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, do you feel like this would be if we started over from scratch, that this would mean no labels at all? Because
I think we're moving
the
towards
overhead.
that. We're moving towards that. Because most of the job of the label in the past was making your album. Like, they had these big machines with big expensive rolls of tape that you have to run through this thing, right? And then you have to make these discs, these big 10-inch discs, right? You can't do that yourself. Right. So you needed somebody to handle all of that production stuff for you. Now you can make a whole I can make I basically did in the past, right? When we did Freedom Sessions and Jeremiah's out, you can make your whole album in here. I don't need a label for none of that. Now, where the label still comes in is the game is still the same. The person with the most eyes on them wins, right? And the labels have the most eyes on them, right? So if they put out an artist, they could put out Little Boo Boo out next, and because they have so many eyes on them, Little Boo Boo could be a terrible artist, but he's still gonna get more attention than I could ever get.
So labels are gonna become marketing firms.
That's basically what they are now.
Yeah, that's what they are now.
Okay.
It's just a marketing firm.
Well, I think another thing too is like, it's just money. It's just like, I'm gonna put money behind Trey, and I'm gonna put
It's an investment.
It's an investment. But you got to pay that investment back. Please believe we got this set up so that money is coming back to the team.
It's more of a loan.
Really,
it's really a loan. I'm loaning you money. I'm assuming that you are good enough and you're interesting enough that I can get a lot of people to give you $10. Right, and if a lot of people give you $10, I'll make about 80 of that, 80% of that, and you'll make not even 20, right? So that's the deal that you're making. It's like, I'm trading a lot of what I can make off of my own album. I'm gonna give it to you so you can give me more attention, so I could possibly make more, and I could possibly make money somewhere else doing other things, because now I'm a celebrity. Right. That's the deal you're making with me.
Yeah, really. I think you told us this in the meeting one time. Like, you really not really making money. You really becoming famous. Right. That's really not, honestly, now is like fame. Like, people, it's almost to the point people want to be famous more than they want to be a millionaire.
Because fame equals show money.
Yeah.
Fame equals speaking engagements. Yeah. Fame equals endorsements.
Yeah.
That's where they're hoping their money is going to end up coming from. But you're trading a little bit of your creative freedom, a lot of your money for celebrity. That's what you're paying for.
So you become an artist not to be the artist, but but as a pathway to other stuff that you want to do.
Yeah, it's basically about becoming successful. That's what most people want to do. They want to be able to make music and be popular. That's just usually what it is. If you don't, then you could do it all yourself, and you won't need anybody else.
That's true.
So it's interesting how everything's changing. If streaming services evolved into something else, I want us to be able to figure it out first, because I think this whole industry reacts to stuff. We need to be on top.
What if the next thing is like Matrix style? You get a big plug and it's a machine. You got to put it to your head and you just.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be doing that. That will be a no.
That sounds futuristic.
It sounds futuristic. And
let's get back into it. You're in the field with the
crazy as
Trackstarz.
heck.
Ryan Righteous, SEANTANA, DJ Jeremiah. Let's go.